Welcome, everyone. This is Ross Grimsley from the Live Casino Hotel Studio. This is the Ross Grimsley Show. Stan the Fan Charles on my right. We've got Kyle on the board over here. How you guys doing today?
We're doing great.
Better than the
Ross,
weather.
And we want to thank. We're bailing water from the studio. Wanted to thank all the folks that tuned in last week.
Absolutely.
Ross.
No, that's one of the things I was going to, absolutely do. But a lot of people checked in and viewed us. I know, I got family and friends all over the country.
That's why the numbers were so huge.
Absolutely.
They not only
in Canada and Mexico.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a bonus. But Oriole Fantasy Campers, a lot of friends, JSB Baseball Group, our Baltimore Baseball Cruise people that we go on to cruise, me, Stan House, and Mike Devereaux. Like I said, friends and family all across the country. I thank everybody. It was a lot of fun. And, if you have any questions, something that we would like to talk about, you want us to talk about, you can reach me at rgrimsley2, that's the number 2, on Twitter or on Facebook.com/PressBoxSports.
By the way,
let us know.
We've got a very upset producer today, Kyle Ottenheimer.
Okay.
We don't have to bring.
Oh, no, absolutely.
We don't have to bring.
Yes, we do. We have to have it.
We don't have to bring.
Seriously, I didn't realize I was going to be. You and Glenn, whenever I give you a bit of sports news, I already knew about it an hour ago.
No, I did not know about this.
John Beeline apparently is accepting a job to leave Michigan as head coach to take the Cleveland Cavaliers job as head coach for 5 years. What is John Beeline thinking?
I would I don't know, Stan. I'm still processing the
reason I bring it back around, would Ross Grimsley be a good candidate to coach Michigan?
With all due respect to Ross Grimsley, he's a fantastic pitcher and knows the game of baseball very well. John Beeline was a tremendous basketball coach, and if he does in fact leave Michigan, it will leave quite a void.
Yeah,
it's too cold up there anyway.
It does get rather cold in the winters.
Who are some of his top assistants?
Off the top of my head, I hadn't needed to learn it.
He's still in shock.
I was hoping he would just be there for the next 10 years.
All right.
I'm still processing all of it.
All right, we'll let it go. I don't know what he's thinking, because when you look at Rick Pitino, and I know it's a baseball show, but this is pretty big news. Rick Pitino was a flop in the pros, and what's his name? Kentucky's coach.
Calipari.
John Calipari was a total disaster.
It's a
different animal.
When the guys run the team, you kind of get in the flow if you can.
Well, they also offer $40 million. That's another story as well.
Really.
Yeah.
Well, let's another topic. Yeah. And we talk is the Kentucky Derby. I had maximum security, obviously, and he got eliminated. But that's old news. I understand that. But the thing is, that got me is none of these country house. They're not running in the Preakness, which I think is really what the one horse has a little horse. He's a little horse and Coffin or whatever, from what I understand. So that kind of is unfair to the Preakness of Baltimore, I think.
I think the connections of maximum security, I think they realize they're going nowhere with their suit, their lawsuit or anything like that. But I think that they're pretty miffed about it, and they just say, what's the point of racing the horse 2 weeks, back to back, 2 weeks apart, if he doesn't have a chance to win the Triple Crown?
Yeah, really.
So he's out. The horse that I bet on in that race was Tacitus, who ended up being put up to third from fourth place. He was never impeded intentionally by anything, but I thought he ran a very interesting race, and I'll bet he's 2 or 3 to 1 in the Preakness if he's entered. I'm not even sure.
Yeah, well, looks like it. I just want to bring that up because they're not running in the Preakness, and I thought that was kind of a shaft to
an odd race. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I tell you, if you put $100 down on Country House, you won about $13,000.
Yeah.
So exactly that was so. Making that decision, they lost a lot of money. Yeah. So
I'm more in the $2.
That's exactly right.
Ross is in the $100 window.
Yeah, no.
The amount of money that if you were to bet that Chris Davis on May 13th would be batting like 5 or 7 points under 200. I mean, the odds would have been pretty.
He's been hitting over 300 since he got his first hit, and that's now what, 3.5 weeks ago.
He started 0 for 33.
Right. That's a big hole to dig
obviously,
out.
we're going to go to the Orioles now and talk about them. But, yeah, over 33, he's 18 for 59. So, I mean, if he can hit 200 and hit 30 or 40 home runs, drive in 75, 80 runs, any more than that, what a bonus. But here's a guy, I think this guy finally realized that all the guff he was getting last year and the thing was brought to the surface that he wasn't working as hard as they made it out to be. And the way he was treated, the fans, and obviously they've turned around and really supported him. But this guy, I got to start working at this. If I'm going to be around here, they're not going to get rid of me unless they release me, because no one's going to take that contract. But I think he's worked his butt off and starting to make contact, and
How much of that is the embarrassment factor? I mean, you know what it's like to be a pro athlete.
I know what it's like to be embarrassed too.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but
really.
you know what it's like to, not to the extent that Chris suffered, but you know what that's like. How much of a driving force was it that, hey, this is not really who I am?
Really, no. I mean, that's you go out and day in and day out, and I didn't struggle as bad as he did. And
Very few have.
No, exactly. And to keep his head above water and do what he's done and bounce back, and the home run he hit last night, he started to make contact and not. He gets every now and then he'll start guessing or he'll start swinging some bad pitches, but everybody does that.
Or not swing, right?
Or not swing, yeah. But he's making more contact. He's getting more. I mean, he's doing things. But yeah, you after a while, when you get in a slump and you start trying to do a lot of different things, you get even worse. Instead of just going to the basics. That's what you need to go back to. But I think his whole thing, his work ethic, I believe, is a little bit different than other people's. And he says, they asked, are you working? Yes, I'm working. But not to the point where what my work ethic is or somebody else's. He thought he was working. Obviously he wasn't, or he would. Right. But now whatever he's doing and whatever they're doing for him, but it all comes down to you.
What I struggled to reconcile was how he had such tremendous success in 2013, right? And we heard about his approach and preparation and how much he had been focusing on tee work and hitting the ball to all parts of the field. And
right.
I don't know where at which point, if that stopped, it stopped, and why, or why it stopped working.
Yeah.
That
was one thing that I couldn't ever figure out.
But it happens.
The hardest thing to figure out to me wasn't the swing and miss. It was a guy. I've never seen a guy who was as dangerous as he was at the plate freeze to the point of just striking out that much without even lifting the bat off his shoulder.
A fastball right down the middle of the plate, and everybody go, well, maybe it's his vision. But he just, I don't know, he just locked up. It's one of the things, and Bundy's another example. Here's a guy that is not pitching, obviously, with the stuff he had when he first came in the league. So he hasn't changed. You have to change. The hitters will tell you to change. The pitchers tell the hitters how to change. But you got to make adjustments somehow. And what happens is you start hitting the ball hard and you don't get base hits. Now you start changing stuff. You don't have to change. Keep hitting it hard. You're pitching well, but you're losing. I mean, as a pitcher, you don't control winning and losing. You got to control what's going on. You can't think about winning over here, or you can't think about losing. You got to take care of the stuff in the middle. And each little thing will either help you win or lose, but you're not in control of it because you're not.
We had gotten
anything to do with offense.
We had gotten to the point where we had pretty much, it was like a foregone conclusion that Chris Davis was going through what we had pretty much declared the yips, right? Like,
I think that's still true.
So then, is there another instance, even if this is just a small sample size of success, is there another instance where we had? I mean, hitting is another thing altogether, right? Knobloch was throwing; he couldn't throw it to first base, right?
Really.
He's the rarest case of a guy who I think suffered the equivalent to the yips as a hitter, and there are very few, if any, that we can really think of that ever came back. And I'm excited by the fact he's hit over 300 since.
Small sample size.
He's at 196 though.
Right.
The question is, can he hit well enough to finish this season at 240 or 250? And I think the jury's out on that.
It's hard.
It's hard to
like I said, he hits 200. If he hit around 200, he's going to strike out 200 times.
Sure, right.
And he's
even if he hits 250, he's going to strike out.
If he strikes out, he's not going to strike out as much as before.
Sure,
because he's making more contact. But you would take 250 because he's going to get 25 to 35. home runs.
I'm not being greedy. I don't think the number is 250. I'm saying could he hit 220? That would mean from the would mean from the time that he was 0-33, he probably hit 275 or 285.
And keep in mind, this is something that we were talking about as a literal sunk cost. Like Chris Davis was, when are you just going to stop trying and cut him? Because clearly this is a lost cause. He's not going to regain anything.
He's come back from the land of lost causes.
He has, and and hopefully, if he goes through this again, which is a very strong possibility, he will. That now he'll know how to bounce back, possibly.
So the expression when I was a kid was practice makes perfect.
Right.
But then maybe 20 years ago, it's not practice makes perfect. It's perfect practice makes perfect.
John Wooden.
Yeah.
Perfect.
How much of what Chris was doing was him practicing perhaps things that just really weren't relevant anymore to his ability to succeed?
It's hard. I mean, you can practice. And obviously, perfect practice makes you better, obviously. But sometimes doing it and getting the feeling, that's the biggest thing. What did it feel like? I always ask pitchers, what did that just feel like? Do that again. Whatever you find a key in a golf swing, pitching, hitting, if you could find a key, you ain't got to go to 2 or 3 of them. Go to 1, 2 at the most, and get that feeling and be able to repeat it. That's one of the toughest things. Some guys can't do it, and the guys that do it the most are your stars or your Hall of Famers. Yeah. And that's kind of what it is. But to find that feeling and have a key to go off of, that's the biggest thing right there in just about any sport, really.
One of the things we criticized him about, right, was his refusal to bunt, his refusal to try to use the shift against the defense.
Yeah.
And obviously the shift introduces a whole other layer of mental complexities for baseball players.
Right.
But how much for a professional athlete is an aspect of like swallowing your pride in order to try to alter your game?
Well, you look at now, intentional walks. There's not a lot of them. There's the fewest, and that are pitching around to hitter. Some guys won't do it because I know I can get him out. Well, you know what? If I can get the next guy out easier than I can get you out, I'm going to pitch the next guy. I'm not going to pitch to you. I'm not going to pitch to Barry Bonds. I'm not going to pitch to Mike Trout. I'm not going to pitch now. But why? If there's a guy, and it could be, you could be a guy that could pitch to Ohtani, who hits ahead of Trout.
Right.
And I can't get him out, but I can get Trout out. That goes against everything. But I would rather face somebody I can get, no matter who it is. And the stats don't say that. Well, you know what? You throw the stats out the window, and you throw the stats out the window that particular day. Because a lot of things, I'm throwing pretty well today, or I'm swinging the bat pretty well today. I don't want to face him. I want to face him. It's how it's going. You got to have those eyes, and you got to have that experience, and that's something that is really not happening as much in this day and age.
We'll remind you you're watching or listening to the Ross Grimsley Show right here on Facebook Live, and the way to reach us each week, in case you are just listening, is to go to Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, and we are broadcasting as we do each and every week from the Live Casino Hotel Studios. Ross, I know you always have a bag of tricks you want to talk about. We got into Chris Davis, talked a little bit about the rumors that appear to be certain that John Beilein is leaving Michigan to coach the Cavaliers.
We can leave that one back there, Stan.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's going to be prime topic number 1 on the Glenn Clark radio show today. But you had a couple other things you wanted to talk about.
We could talk a little bit about the game yesterday with the Orioles. Yep. I mean, they won 5-1. They got 9 hits, made 2 errors. One was a catcher's interference. But the Angels, they got the 1 run on the home run by Steve Trout. Means, again, was really good. Not as sharp as the previous outings, but still, he was able to pitch without his best stuff. He walked 3 guys. He give up, like I said, the home run to Trout, give up 4 hits. But
a lot of people have given up home runs to Trout.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's solo.
Are you aware, by the way, that you said Steve Trout?
He did. It's Mike Trout's, of course,
Steve Trout, it was
twin
a pitcher.
brother.
He was a
I don't
pitcher
think
for the
he.
Cubs, sure.
Yeah.
Did you ever pitch against Steve Trout?
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But no, Trout's a guy. He
hits home runs off.
He hits home runs off of everybody as long as there's no one on ahead of him. That's perfect. But means, like I said, he's got a 233 and an average 5 and 3. He's pitched really outstanding. Yesterday was a little bit. He didn't pitch as well but he got by and only gave up 1 run in
How
6 innings.
Encouraging though, like that's kind of the mark of a major league pitcher. Is
Absolutely,
how you pitch without your best stuff, isn't it?
And I made the comment watching him pitch to J.D. Martinez from Boston, who's an outstanding hitter. The first time up, he threw him changeups. Second time up, I think he threw him fastballs, and the third time he didn't know what to expect, but he pitched him different each time and located. That's a sign when you get this guy out and get him looking for different pitches. But his changeup is tremendous. Like I said, his fastball command gets better. His breaking pitches get better. He did strike out a couple of left-handers on his slider, but if that improves, this guy, who knows what can happen? But he just keeps moving in the right direction. The O's got 4 home runs yesterday. Davis 5, his 5th home run. Severino a home run. Smith, Dwight Smith Jr.'s got 8 home runs. What he hit last year? He hit 2 last year, I think.
What do you see with him, and have you seen many left-handed hitters? I know he gets asses all the time, but the answer is I don't see that many that really hang in there against left-handed pitching like
he does. He does. He hits the ball the other way. I mean, he's got a pretty good eye. Here's a guy, the scouting report, he's a 4th outfielder.
Right.
And he's not playing like a 4th outfielder now. No. But he, like you said, he hangs in against left-handers. He'll chase some pitches at times, but they all do. He can get to the balls that he can get to. He kind of shies away from the walls at times. So a lot of guys do that, but he kind of backs away a little bit. And he's not a great outfielder, but he keeps hitting. He's hitting 280 something. On base percentage 450 or so. Right. I mean, he's doing a really outstanding job, and no one saw this. No one saw Means. Mancini has come back. He's hitting the ball where it's pitched. He's a tough out. He might be playing his way out of here.
That's
to a contender.
I think, but even with Means and with Dwight Smith, right? Like, even I think last year, I think the Orioles would probably say they would regret having not traded Richard Blyer after the first 2 or 3 months of the season, because he would have been his most valuable he probably ever will be at that point. How do you decide as an organization that's rebuilding when a really good start by a player is maybe John Means being the next Dallas Keuchel, or those guys like Dwight Smith being an opportunity to sell high?
Yeah, no. You look at who's going to be the first baseman in the future with the Orioles. Probably
most likely Mountcastle,
Yeah.
or believe it or not, or Cisco. I don't know where they think that he's going to end up playing.
I don't think he's the
Stan
catcher.
like him
the
as a
power
catcher.
doesn't really fit it first.
And he started pulling the ball in spring training, which he didn't do before, and that was impressive for a lot of people. And his just demeanor. He's kind of a laid-back kid, doesn't say a whole lot, and to catch.
They don't like him as a catcher.
No,
and
you got to be a little more outgoing and take control, command. He didn't do that.
And Kyle, I saw the same things with his power numbers. Terry Crowley told me that the park in Norfolk is really difficult.
It suppresses it.
Left-handed hitters to hit home runs. Okay. And all of a sudden he's got 5.
He's been hitting really well lately.
He's been hitting well. And
hot.
The thing is, what's good, they can leave these kids down there and let them play. There's no need to rush them. Mountcastle can play first base. Learn to play that. He's going to hit in the big leagues. He is an outstanding hitter. Mm-hmm. And here's a guy that I think Mancini's going to be an outfielder probably. Davis, if he's here, is going to DH. Mountcastle will be the first baseman. Now, if that's how they want to go, but what can you get? What can you get for these guys?
Right.
For
how long is Davis going to be effective, and is he ever going to be a part of a competitive team again for the Orioles? Right,
and he probably won't be. I mean, the Houston. They lost 100 games, 3 years in a row. Yeah. The last one was 111 games. There was only 3 guys on the team last year from that team.
Altuve, Keuchel, and
Springer. I think Springer
came up in
J.D. Martinez was
he
there.
He started
briefly.
There, but then he had to bounce around.
There were only a few guys left. So saying that, it looks like probably when the Orioles are a playoff contending team again, these guys that are here might not even be here.
Mm-hmm. Mountcastle is hitting right now. Mountcastle is hitting 319, and the impressive thing is because this is a guy who remember the story last year where Buck Showalter said to him in spring training a year ago, I was looking at your number. You only walked like 8 times or something like that. And he goes, yeah, how about that? And Buck said, that's not funny. Well, his on-base percentage is .347. You still have a 33-6 ratio of strikeouts to walks. But for him, .347 is not bad as an on-base percentage.
The scheduled guest for next week,
Yeah.
Joe LaFay. Joe LaFay was the hitting coach for the San Francisco Giants when Barry Bonds was there. He is a scout now.
He was an outfielder several cups of coffee.
Right. Not a long time, but he was he's been assistant to Brian Sabian. Anyway, here's a guy who has 2 teams. He's scouting now, the Orioles and the Nationals. So he does. I talked to him the other day, and knows all the Oriole minor leagues, the big leagues. He probably knows the Oriole players better than the people here do.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I said, he was going to be on this week, and he couldn't do it. But next week he's going to be on, and he can tell us give us an unbiased opinion about the Oriole minor league players. And I was surprised.
By the way, hitters are probably less thought of than the pitchers.
Yes, really. But he actually was saying there's some pretty good prospects in the system, and that was really great to hear. And I'm asking you because you see these guys on a daily basis.
I think the thing is, there's no outside of Mountcastle, and I guess using the LDS, there are a few guys in the Orioles system right now that are quote unquote like can't miss hitters, but there are still guys at the lower levels who have potential, like in the return from the Gosman trade, the JC Encarnaciones of the group, like the ones who, if things go right, could end up being real prospects, but we're still in the position where we're.
And you know what? I mean, like you said, they're prospects. Don't start pumping these guys up. I mean, they're in A-ball. Even you can start talking a little bit about Double-A, but I've seen it in the past. You start pumping these guys up, and they come, and they're not as good as everyone said they were. So now somebody's going to get axed over this, because these guys aren't that good. And you all said they were. Now we got to, what happened? But that's part of the game.
There's a come to Jesus.
Exactly.
Part of development.
But at least it does seem like this organization's not rushing people.
No, and they know that they're getting guys an opportunity to play. You get to see what you got. They're taking inventory, and I've said this in the past. They're taking inventory on the organization, not only the players but the coaches, the staffs, the front office. They're seeing what is going to go along with what they want to do.
I'm not making it a competition between Mountcastle and Cisco, but Mountcastle, who got off to a good start right away, is hitting .319, .347 on base, .847 OPS. 2.5 weeks ago, Chance Cisco was hitting 3.5 weeks ago, was hitting about $140. Yep. He's at .289 now. His on base is .383. And his OPS is .931, about 70 points higher than Mountcastle, and he's got now 7 home runs.
Yeah,
he's been hitting the ball amazing.
Yeah. Well, look, you got the June draft coming here shortly.
Yep.
Who are they going to pick? You got a catcher, you got a shortstop.
Well, there was a huge story in the athletic.com and our cover story in Press Box, while not a 39-page story like Dan Connolly's in the Athletic about Adley Rutschman. Ours is more about the entire process of selecting number one. We do know this, that Mike Elias and Sig Maydal have some experience at it. They picked number one in the entire draft 3 straight years in a row. Now, granted, they worked under Jeff Lunau, so Lunau was really making the picks, but needless to say, both Sig and Mike Elias had a lot of say-so on that.
Right. Well, you got 2 positions, 2 of the top players, 2 positions that you really want to get: catching,
probably the 2 premium positions.
But you get catching, shortstop, center field. You got shortstops can play anywhere. Center fielders can play anywhere in the outfield, and catching you need. So you get a catcher, which it really sounds like they could be leaning that way. I mean, what does that do?
It sounds like the consensus is that the catcher is the safest and perhaps the best pick.
He's the article, like you referenced, Dan Connolly wrote it in The Athletic, and it was comprehensive. It was a long piece, and from what you can tell from the outside and from people who have spent a lot of time with him, that kid is flawless, right? Like, he is as close to a sure thing as a prospect as you could be.
When was the last time you heard that?
Unfortunately, it was Matt Wieters, right?
But
that's the God's honest truth. They were saying the same stuff about him.
But
Switch hitting catcher.
Here's a big guy. What is he? 6'5"?
Yeah.
And he's a catcher. You don't see a lot of big catchers.
And they talk about him
Matt
defensively.
Wieters was one.
Yeah, but you
Defensively,
don't.
but Wieters, I think, was still lumbering, right? I think Rutschman is considered to be more of an athlete, and
Well, he's about 6'2", I think, isn't he?
he's huge. He's got the frame as a catcher, but
Yeah.
he's not. I don't think I don't know if it's quite the same as. I think he might be taller than that. As where with Maurer and with Wieters down the line, it was like I don't know if their body can hold up. And catching is such a rigorous, demanding position. But
usually I talk about tall catchers. It's usually hard for tall catchers to give a good low
Right,
target.
right.
But again, in this day and age where everybody's pitching up in the zone and the hitters are swinging at it,
he was referenced as being like he dances, like he's flexible. So it's not.
And that's. But again,
As a pitcher, though, and a pitching staff, what is it? And he's talked about as being major league ready defensively, like an above average pitch framer. How, and that's maybe Cisco's problem, right? Like commanding a staff.
And he's not.
He just doesn't have the personality for it.
No, and you saw that last year. He wasn't able. He got sent back down because he just went into a panic. And it was really tough for him, and he couldn't adjust, and so they had to get rid of him. Had to send him down to settle him down some. So yeah, it's one of the first two guys. Witt,
Yeah,
you can't lose. I don't think Witt's a guy that compare to a senior in college,
and he's
a high
actually
school guy.
he's 19, right? He's a 19-year-old high schooler, but at the end of the day, it's hard. You would think they've been doing as much research and more than anybody,
absolutely.
right? So they've probably got good reason to select whoever it is they pick.
And they got a lot of money.
That too, right?
They got the second largest pool.
Well, I got to tell you, the point of view that Drew Forrester on Friday gave us about about how a high school student is 19 years old. He says that this is absolutely huge in sort of lacrosse and some other sports. Is at a certain point they may have held him back a year and had him repeat a grade, so he would always be the oldest kid among the kids.
And it's not as if he was the only run, right? Like, so there's surely
other,
right,
yes.
but yeah, it's not quite Danny Almonte in the college in the Little League World Series.
They have played. I know Witt has played in a lot of these showcases around the country in major league parks, so they get all the Statcast information, which is really really great to have. But both of them are going to be something. It should be interesting to see what they finally.
Rutschman, by the way, is 6. He's listed at Oregon State as 6'2".
6'2".
Whereas Wieters was 6'5",
right.
6'5" and a half.
I just go over experience over the many years, and just big tall catchers, they don't
hold up.
They don't pan out because it's really tough to get down and give good targets. And Wieters wasn't a great. He didn't block well. He reached a lot, but that's what they do now, which is unbelievable. But yeah, it's a different thing.
Let me ask you a question. Speaking of catching, and I'm not ascribing to the thought that they'll go, wow, we've got Austin Wynns, Pedro Severino, Chance Cisco. We don't need a catcher. So I don't think that's the impact. But I wanted to ask you, it really looks like after starting the season where Sucre seemed to be catching more like 7 out of 10 times.
Right.
They ended up sending him out when Wynns got healthy.
Yeah.
And now it looks, though, that Severino is really taking over this number one job, and he's going to be the guy catching 7 times out of 10. Knowing the experience you have in the big leagues, what does Brandon Hyde like about Pedro Severino?
Yeah, he's got. You watch him. He's got a lot of energy. He's very vocal. He gives. You love catchers that give a sign and they want a ball in the dirt and they'll pound on the dirt or they'll do that. They'll give you something. No matter what the cameras are seeing, they don't care. Yeah, get the ball down in the dirt and he'll bark at you when you have to, and you need that as a pitcher. You handle guys different ways. Some guys you pat on the back. Some guys you holler at. Some guys you can't say anything to. Some guys you got to pump up. I know Johnny Bench and Pat Corrales, when I was with the Reds, they used to. Clay Carroll, right-handed pitcher, reliever.
Right.
They always pumped him up and told him how good you're a guy. You got great stuff. He didn't throw very hard. He didn't have great stuff. But the more you told him, the more he believed it. And he went out and he got saves. He pitched really well in big games, World Series, playoffs, and that's what you got to do. But you got to learn those guys, and it's really tough now because the Orioles got a revolving door. They got the Norfolk Shuttle,
Sure do.
not like they did a few years ago, but it's it's pretty much that's what they do, and it's really tough to learn guys.
I wanted to ask you a question about one of the pitchers that has been up and down a little bit so far, and that's Evan Phillips.
Yes.
I think it's I just want your take on this. I think it's one thing for Brandon Hyde to tell him privately, hey, we're sending you down. We want you to work on A, B, and C.
Right.
And as soon as you do A, B, and C, we're bringing you back up.
Yep.
He went public with that the other night, saying, I told him he's going to be back soon. He's going down. Don't you think that leaves open? Suppose he goes down and A, B, and C aren't really the answers, and he's absolutely sucks.
You ain't coming back.
And he's told him that he's coming back,
Well,
and he's gone public with it.
Hopefully, he said, if you do this, that, and the other. Obviously, we're not going to bring you back, in some cases, if you're not pitching well.
Right.
I mean, we've seen Yacobonis come back and forth. Yacobonis got good stuff, good arm. He just overthrows. Castro, same way. Here's a guy with a great arm, can pitch every day, probably throw 5 innings every day. He just tries to throw the ball, instead of 95, he tries to throw it 105.
But isn't that kind of all these guys know, right? Like,
well,
at which point is it like
that is, and one of the things that but you got to watch. I mean, if you can't throw the ball over the plate, you're not really doing. What's the first thing you talk about a pitcher? What's the first thing they say?
Strike
but
one.
no, I mean, we talk
any
about
first strikes?
No, that's not the first
how
thing
hard
you
does he
talk
throw?
about. How hard
How
does he
hard does he
throw?
throw? Yep.
He throws 95 to 100. Okay, he's got a great breaking ball, electric stuff. Can he throw the ball over the plate?
Right. Can he
Well,
command
no, he
it?
struggles. Well, what good is he then until he learns to do
That's
that?
like Tanner
He
Scott.
Can't, he can't.
I mean, Tanner
exactly.
Scott is the
But, he
exhibit A of that.
A left-hander, though, you got to hang with them longer.
Yeah.
Because it takes longer for him to pick things up for whatever reason.
And isn't there something like baseball does now reward the velocity? Like Tanner Scott will keep getting chances for as long as he throws.
They reward it, which is the saddest thing. They reward it at high school. They have places to go to learn to throw hard. In 2018, I think 11 teams are top pitching prospects.
Drive line up in
5 or 6 of them had Tommy John surgery. 2 of them had shoulder. Between 2011 and 14, almost over 50% of the guys aren't even had shoulder or elbow surgeries. I mean, a vast majority of them aren't even playing.
Right.
But you are so infatuated with miles per hour, especially with young kids, their bodies aren't ready for that. I mean, you're pumping. It's just like doing steroids. It makes the muscles stronger, and that's tendons can't handle it. And that's what happened.
Let's remind folks that they're listening and watching the Ross Grimsley Show. We're broadcasting from the Live Casino Hotel studio. If you have joined us on Facebook Live, please like and share the show. We're on this week on Monday. We're introducing this or presenting it. Normally, our day is Tuesday release. The Orioles this week, as we get close to wrapping things up, the Orioles this week have 3 in New York and then 4 in Cleveland. I was looking at one thing. Of the 7 games, only one top-tier starter goes against us, and that's Trevor Bauer. Is that pretty good luck of the draw to get 7 games and only have one stud pitcher go against you?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of injuries in baseball, and that's another subject we'll get on. One of these later shows, we'll have somebody on that's familiar with this. But yeah, I mean, especially if you can get somebody you can jump on the opening series, the opening day, the first game of the series, and you can jump on and score some runs. They use their bullpen. That bodes well for the rest of it, and vice versa too. If they get into your bullpen, then you got some problems. But it goes good. I mean, who knows what the Orioles? They're pitching their starters the last. I think they have 4 quality starts in the last
10
few games, and the stars. Cashner's doing well. But big change in him. This year. Means has done his thing. Hopefully Cobb Bundy can find what he needs to do.
So let me ask you something about Cashner. Cashner's best season in the major leagues was 2017 when he was pitching with the Texas Rangers.
Right.
3.40 ERA.
It was 500, 11-11, I believe.
Something like that. But it was really his ERA and WHIP were both good. He's now back with the manager, the pitching coach that he worked with in 2017. How much can there be some, an esprit de corps between coach and player?
No, Big time. I mean, it's obviously he's doing something different because you can see him on the mound. He's always got a ball in his hand. That's always something he always told pitchers.
Yeah.
Get a ball in your hand just to feel it. And now the ball's being different the way they are. You know, you can feel it. You can manipulate it. You know, and hey, and you try this when you go out and throw. But he's a guy that his delivery, he's keeping the ball down a lot more. He's come up with a pretty good curveball slider. Changeup has really been a big pitch for him. As I think that's a pitch that it seemed like each era you had the splits one year, you had the changeups in the 70s and 80s, then you got the cutter. The cutter's the big thing now. So I think the changeup is making full circle, is coming back again.
Do you think some of these older pitchers like a Cashner could be watching the success Means is having, the odd swings that he's inducing, and saying, hey, let me dust that off?
Well, it's something when you get older, you got to have a pitch that, you know, especially a changeup. Changeup is probably the best pitch in baseball. And what it does is if you got arm speed, it looks like a fastball. It's really tough to hit, and it's got the same spin. And then if you can learn to throw, like I said, the two-seam fastball, two-seam changeup, it's a little slower. It's got movement. So now, like I said, you got 4 pitches with 2 pitches, and all of them are different speeds. They can guess the speed, but now they got to guess the movement.
Would you rather have to coach or teach a pitcher how to throw a changeup, or like let's say they have 2 good pitches, fastball, changeup, or fastball, slider, or curveball? What would you rather have for your pitcher?
Most of them have the fastball breaking ball. The changeup it's hard to get one.
It's an acquired taste.
There's several different ways to get. That's the whole thing, is to get the speed off the ball. If you can do that with the grip, hallelujah. But if you can't do it with the grip, you just gotta work with it. But the thing is, people want the changeup to look like a fastball,
right?
And they'll throw the changeup and they'll let up and slow their whole body down.
Right.
Changeup, here it comes, you know, and the hitters jump all over it. You gotta, and sometimes the guy will speed up his body because he's trying to make it look like a fastball. So you speed up everything and then you slow down at the end.
Right.
You can't do that. It's got to be a
the
natural.
Arm speed needs to be there.
And there's a lot of different ways to do it and to teach them how to not do that. And it's just some guys can pick it up quicker than others.
Before we finish up, what is the proper differential miles per hour, or does that vary based on how fast your fastball is? But is it 12 miles an hour, 15?
It was. I was always told between 10 and 15 miles an hour.
Right.
And you look at Means, he tops, he throws at 92, he throws a changeup is 80. There's 12. But again, it's all arm speed. I mean, it's like we threw BP fastballs. You know, you get an account 2-0-3-1, you want them to swing the bat. So
and a lot of pitchers these days have harder, like 7 mile per hour differentials, but it'll have a lot of fade, like a lot of movement.
I mean, they got, you know, it's but you take a little bit off the fastball and you get the guys on the front foot because they're looking heater. But now they're in the Mexican League. When I was down there coaching, and they threw breaking balls and changeups anytime. They throw it 3-0. They did not want to give you something to hit, and that's okay if you can throw it over the plate. But sometimes you got to be aggressive and go at them, make them swing the bat, so you don't throw 100 pitches by the 5th inning. But there's a time to get strikeouts, and you see. With the games the way they are, the games take forever. The people are getting bored. There's 4 to 7 minutes downtime between action, and it's taken away. Hit and run, you don't see that. Stealing bases, sacrifices, all a part of the game that's strategy. You're not seeing that anymore, and I don't think the people. I mean, it's great to see home runs, and and there's a time to go for them and not go for them, and try to get on base to set it up. But it's it's a different animal this year.
All right, Ross, what do you got to say to the folks out there?
Well, like I said, next week we have an interesting guest scheduled for us, Joe LaFay, to talk about the Orioles system and give us some stories about Barry Bonds, which is really enlightening and really interesting. Maybe the best hitter.
Ever, maybe.
Ever.
Yeah.
I know he could do some things, and he could go 15, 20 pitches without swinging a bat, get a pitch, hit a home run. just amazing person, amazing player. So that'll be very interesting, and we'll come up with some other good things for next week. But thank everybody. I appreciate the views. It's a lot of fun. And again, if you got something you want us to talk about or discuss, R. Grimsley 2 and Facebook.com/PressBox Sports.
All right. And remember, if you are watching Facebook Live, it really helps us out if you like the show and share the show. We'll be in next Tuesday morning from the Live Casino Hotels. I'm Stan the Fan, and he is
Ross Grimsley. Cool, man.